Hello and welcome to the Creighton Crogcast.
Perfect.
It's Wednesday, the 19th of February.
Yeah.
And it is the 312th pod.
What kind of pod is it?
About PC games.
That's correct.
I'm Alex Wiltshire, and with me tonight is...
Marsh Davis.
Good evening.
Good evening, Alex.
You and me.
It's just us two.
Was that, just out of interest, we're not going to use that intro, are we?
Yes.
Oh, shit.
Obviously. This is rolling now. There's no way to stop this train. Yes. Shall we plough straight on through
the snowdrifts?
Through the snowdrifts, through the cattle on the line, into news.
For me, there's only one bit of news.
What's that news?
Well, there's only one topic of news.
What's that?
The hunt.
The hunt. The hunt eclipses all, as it's rightfully should, yeah. Hunt Showdown. No the in front of it, just hunt. Doesn't even need an article. That's how all eclipsing it is. There has been some hunt news, actually, because they released a big update. And so the last time I talked about it, I think I was complaining about how there was no onboarding for noobs. Now there is onboarding for noobs.
You won't know about it because you ain't a noob.
No, I mean, I don't need it anymore because I'm fucking pro hunter. Actually, I killed some people in pretty good style today, such that the person I was playing with, our friend Jim Rossignol, said that I should now be known as Beast Mode. That's my new name. So, yeah, make sure you use it, Alex.
Well done.
Thanks. Yeah, but anyway, this new onboarding mode is really good. It's just PvE solo, and it just teaches you what you need to do on a map in order to find the bounty and kill the monsters and escape, and it gives you some silly in-game money points for it. Do you get to
is it a place you can go back to try out guns and things?
Yes, although you don't earn anything through it, so there's no XP grind, which is slightly annoying from my perspective because I hate waiting for things. But you can go into it with any set of equipment that you like and test them out, which is quite useful.
Yeah.
Just to get used to the way that things work.
Because the first time I used my weapons in that game, it was in a situation where I needed to use them well. I think that's basically the testing period of anything new in that game.
Yeah. And not everything works in the way you think it does, because they're all fucking oldie worldy guns which you need to cock in unusual ways, and some of them, are, what's it called, repeating, and some of them aren't, and then, yeah, everything's a little bit different. So it's good to be able to try them out.
Yeah. That's good.
That is good.
What is the best monster that you have hunted in that game?
Actually, the bosses are pretty interesting sometimes. Like, you'd think that they were just there just as a sort of, they needn't be as good as they are, I think. Maybe they aren't like a boss battle on the scale of like a Dark Souls boss, because basically they are there essentially to take up players' time and resources, whilst other players on the level can then surround them.
I mean, by scale, you mean kind of intricacy and kind of finesse required, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, you can pretty much sort out any boss by blowing them up with dynamite, for example. So there's there aren't like multiple stages. There's no kind of bullet hell style dodging, but they are by themselves still quite formidable foes. With their own little attack patterns and things that you need to prepare for, or not.
Yeah.
This is the case. It's such a good game. I fucking love it, Alex.
And so I'm wondering something.
Yeah.
Well, because I have not been on the hunt, despite having started the segment with me suggesting that I'm all about the hunt. I'm not all about the hunt at all. I very much like it and haven't had to be able to devote any time to it whatsoever because all my friends play with each other and they don't invite me in. And
I'm sorry. It does. Yeah, it's now got popular enough amongst my friendship group that it's hard to know who to play with at any one point because you're only allowed three players, and that's too small.
But I was wondering whether you so just to clarify, Hunt is a kind of a PvE/PvP game in which you and one or two other chums go out into a very grim alternative west to shoot gribs and get away with the spoils without other players taking them from you. But one of the things that you've been playing with Jim Rossignol.
Yes.
Jim Rossignol has been playing it a lot, and he's got this preternatural awareness of the world. He knows where things are happening. I was wondering whether you've got any of that sense yet, like where you feel you hear a sound and think, ah, yes.
Yeah, more and more as the more I play it. I don't have Jim's skills. I mean, he was also a near pro Quake player back in the day, so he has Quake 3 player, but so he has just general first person shooter skills that I just never possessed. But I do find myself knowing now where, what the likely distance of shots are and where they're likely to have been. I need to refer to the map though, because I don't necessarily remember where the places are. So there's a little bit of learning. It's interesting. I was thinking about this, whether they could ever expand that game to other environments. I don't think they really could. So it's actually, I mean, you said it was the West. I'm not quite clear.
It's not, is it? Yeah, it's kind of Bayou, kind of
it's the South.
South.
But does the South also count as the West when it's sort of a period? I don't know if the West really is defined by the West. Because I mean, like Red Dead Redemption's set in the West and a lot of it isn't in the West.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's more West than the Bayou, isn't it? Because Bayou's like East Coast, isn't it?
Where's Louisiana?
Southeast Coast.
Yeah. I don't really know. I mean, yeah. There's a Louisiana style environment in Red Dead Redemption too. So, I mean, who knows, basically. Not us. But I don't think it could really be set anywhere else because geographically it relies on, a certain spacing of, human built environments.
Mm-hmm. With kind of wildernessy bits in between or flat, like unpopulated areas in between.
Yes, but it wouldn't work if those unpopulated areas weren't swampy.
Right.
As well.
Why?
Like, because the fact that there's such a large amount of low-lying to waist-height water would be improbable in any other setting, obviously. And also, it really does change the strategy of how you move around that environment. And also tactically. Like, you never want to be crossing a big gulch when you're likely to be under attack,
Well, could you translate it? So, for instance, sort of,
maybe
like
snow.
A northwest. Yeah, I was thinking, and like a snow mountainous sort of.
Yeah. Snowdrift. But then snow, I mean, it would be a different kind of problem, I suppose, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to.
You'd be able to hide in the snow as easily as you can, the reeds of a swamp.
Swampy bank.
You definitely need lots of cover in that game.
Yeah.
He's very good with sightlines. Like the sightlines are very far and near and far and near. And
they've all been thought about.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's such a sophisticated piece of, level design that I don't know what it was like when it was first out, and whether it's evolved hugely since then, like in terms of the layout of the levels, but, not only do they feel incredibly naturalistic and, beautifully detailed, but also they are obviously very well honed for the action that occurs on them. Like you never go up a place and then go up a little kind of ruined tower and then have a perfect 360 view. There's always like a swampy looking tree just in the place that would obscure your view of somebody else's spawn point, etc. They've obviously played enough of that map and then changed it in order to make it an amazing playable space. But it doesn't feel like a game space. It feels so organic. It's also really beautiful. This is the other thing that's changed about my playing of the game. Is that when I first started playing it's a cursed swamp. Hell has come to the bayou, and it's quite an oppressive place. There are these horrible looking dog creatures roaming it, and men who are mostly slugs now, and other horrible things. One of the worst creatures in it is the hive.
Is that the bee person?
Bee lady, yeah.
Bee lady.
So it's a lady who's obviously died in some horrible way, and a huge termite style structure has erupted out of her rib cage, basically, while her head kind of lolls at 90 degrees behind her. And if she sees you, she screams and lets out a swarm of bees, which is appalling. But her aside, I find it a really relaxing, beautiful place to be now, the environments are genuinely beautiful. And when, if you're not right next to a screaming bee lady or a horde of dogs or other players shooting you through the brain pan, the noises of that environment are really relaxing and pleasant. Like there's lots of nice little bird calls and the stridulations of insects and the noises of creaking wood and lapping of water and reeds and ducks. There's a lot to appreciate about the natural splendor that they've recreated and then utterly barbarized.
I was playing a little bit of Red Dead Redemption 2 and very much I'm on a nature hunt in that game at the moment, just spotting wild animals.
Oh, it's fucking fabulous. Fabulous environment in that game.
But the birds in that game, cool. They all sound different. They all really sound different.
I think I read today there's like, I can't remember the number. There's a lot of species in it.
There's some species in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are. Yeah. Because I keep finding new ones and thinking, oh, I've drawn a sketch of it in my little book.
I've been, planning, where I will go next for my next national park visit in the States. Based largely on Red Dead Redemption, being like looking up what is the heartlands in reality and trying to see if there's a national park there I can go and visit. There is.
But might that change now that you'll go to the bayou instead?
What's
your most haunted bayou?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the insects could give you a bit of bother in the bayou. I'm not very good with leeches or mosquitoes, so. I think I might.
But it sounds like you've hardened yourself to the unrelenting grimness of the hunt. So I think that you'd probably harden yourself against the flesh-eating insects of the real world as well.
Alligators. No, won't bother me. Yeah. One last observation before I finish boring everybody about the hunt. Is that I found a sense of zen, in it when I'm beaten, which I haven't found in other shooters specifically. And I don't know, I think it's probably because, it's weird. We sort of toyed with the idea of mentioning, some tweet by Ninja, who is a streamer who is talking about, being angry after being defeated. And he was saying you should be angry because if you're not angry, then you're at peace with losing. And so you've lost twice or something like that. Anyway, who cares what he thinks? It doesn't really matter. But the thing about this game is that I do not feel at all aggrieved when better players than me have nailed me from 160 meters with, a super powerful scoped rifle. I feel like that's being angry at like a mudslide or something,
It's just a natural state of things.
Yeah. And sometimes, you'll find yourself at the epicenter of a 4-way battle, between 4 different teams, and there's really nothing you're going to do there. You are going to die. And that's absolutely fine. And, I think maybe it's partly because of my absolute helplessness that I don't feel grieved, whereas maybe better players who would have a chance of getting out of that situation would be angry. I was trying to
Ninja wouldn't be pleased with you.
I'm sure that he would find me wanting in many respects. But I was comparing this to the way I used to feel about Halo. And I used to get really angry when we were playing Halo, just because I think it's because your failure is seeded across, because the combat takes a long time. It takes a long time to take somebody's health down to 0, that failure is seeded across a much longer space of time. So an idiot like me can trick themselves into thinking that they could have won a battle. Whereas in Hunt, it's so instantaneous, like, I'm dead now. Oh well.
I think there might be something also in the cadence of it where, in a shooter like even Halo, is relatively slow to put down for shields and health, but if you die, you could easily die twice in 20 seconds, right?
Right. You
kind of die, respawn and die again easily. You can, and that kind of cadence of 2, 3, 4 deaths on the trot is,
and then you tilt and you start making bad decisions as well.
And then you start being stupid.
Yeah, there's much more of a reset in Hunt because you're starting with a different character and then you're loading in.
So even though your loss is much more punitive because that entire run is gone, you may well have even lost a character.
Yeah.
There's maybe something in the...
Yeah, and it starts so slow every time as well, so that you can't really tilt in the same way because you're not being thrust back into the same decision-making tree that you failed at the previous time straight away. Whereas in Halo, you'd be like, fuck it, I'm going to get that guy.
Yeah. Oh,
and then he would
kill me again. That's right. I'm even more angry now.
Yeah. Yeah. Good game though, Halo. Made me very angry. This doesn't. Even better game.
I remember the sessions of Halo we used to play Halo 3 in the office.
Yeah, Rich Stanton used to fucking pound everybody.
Oh god, it felt quite personal sometimes.
Yeah. Well, in a weird way, I mean, you couldn't be too angry at Stanton winning for those similar reasons, because like he would just stay up until dawn playing it, and I would go to bed at 10. You know, I just wouldn't have put the hours in. So there's not really a chance I could have ended up competing with him.
Justice was balanced.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, that's why I only play co-op games now. Or against faceless enemies who I don't mind yelling obscenities at across the internet.
Or zombie dogs.
Or zombie dogs, yeah. Fuck those dogs. The dogs are actually still the scariest animal in that game, I think. Get me more often than any other creature. You been playing anything?
I have a little bit, yeah. I've been playing a game called Scourge Bringer. Have you heard of Scourge Bringer?
No. That's a very game name, though, right?
It's really very game. Very, very, very game. Tell me what kind of a game you'd think that Scourge Bringer
is it under the Warhammer license in any way?
No, it isn't.
It isn't.
It's not an Angry Dwarf, no.
I think Scourge Bringer is a RTS game in which you are the bad guy. You're like a necromancer or something.
The bringer of a scourge.
A bringer of a scourge, yeah.
I see. Oh, okay. And then you're raising a zombie army.
Yeah, sure.
Nice. Okay.
Is it like a match 3 game about I don't know, unicorns or something?
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
No, of course, it is in fact a roguelike.
Oh, really?
It has the most beautiful art. So it's a very action roguelike. It is
top down?
No, side on. In which, so it's very, very a gungeon-y feeling. So it's that kind of twitchy sort of dash roll. If you imagine Celeste, add a bit of gungeon, and it's kind of like that-ish.
I see.
Lovely pixel graphics. It's got little bells hanging on things. And when you go past the bells, they ring. It's lovely.
What kind of ring? Is it like a dingle?
Little tinkles. And each of the different types of bells, like different visual types of bells, they make a different dingle.
Wow.
Although now
Red Dead
in the game
Redemption
proper,
doesn't have that, does it?
That was in the, no. That was in the tutorial area, and I haven't seen them since, not in the main game. But it might be, I still haven't got past the first area.
Would you say that the bells end?
Yes. That's very good. So this is a game where you have a gun, but you don't use the gun very much. Your ammo only resupplies when you do a lot of melee hits, melee kills. So it's very much about melee. You have a quick melee attack and you have a slower stunning melee attack, and you have your gun. Those are the 3 attacks. And you are jumping and wall jumping and running and jumping. But you've also got a dash. That's a Celeste kind of dash, except for this dash is quite long, like half the length of the screen long.
Oh, wow.
And it can go in any direction.
Can you abort it halfway?
No.
Right, okay.
No, you can't. So, it's a game where you're zipping from enemy to enemy, and when you slash, you kind of hang in space a little bit. It's got a really lovely feel to it. Like really sort of, just a very good game feel, really crunchy. So you feel the impacts. You know pretty much what's going on all the time. The enemies' attacks are pretty well telegraphed. Because it's a roguelike, when you lose some health, that's a pretty bad thing. You start off with, I think, 8 health. Because I've got an upgrade now, which has taken my health count up, my initial health count up, but I think you start with 8. So you have a fair amount of health, but you can easily lose that very, very quickly. But so it's good that the enemy's, attacks are telegraphed. And you're in a set of, levels, randomly generated, obviously, on a grid. So you're kind of connecting from room to room, and you clear the room and then the doors open. And you generally have 2 waves of enemies in each room in general.
Are the rooms themselves procedure generated, or is it
It's
just
very tile, but like you
Right.
see the patterns every time, but the way they're connected is sort of procedural. And there's a shop in every area. There is a sub boss in every area. You have to kill that sub boss in order to unlock the exit to the area. In order to get to the next area, you've got to kill a big boss. And I have not killed the big boss at all. Like that guy's a fucker.
where is this? What is this world? Who are you? What's my motivation?
I wasn't paying any attention.
But it's sort of sci-fi-y.
It's a bit sci-fi-y, a bit twee, bit all over the place. So, the kind of a hub area is called the chiming tree.
Oh.
And the first area is called entangled ingress. So it's got like a sort of slightly magical reality sci-fi feel to it. Maybe a little twee, but those bells are really nice when you brush past them. So I'm willing to accept it.
Can you find a bell in the entangled ingress, or is that?
I haven't found any bells in the entangled, but there are some back in the chiming tree.
So the bell end essentially is in the entangled ingress. Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm really working hard for this pointless childishness.
It's a funny one because most roguelikes, right? They thrive on the feeling of developing a build, right? And I haven't really had that with this one. There's on every level, there's one of the rooms is one where you get an upgrade. And the upgrades, they are powerful. And there's only one or two that I've come across that are quite sort of build related. So there's one, upgrade I found which, increases the time you stun an enemy by 50% and increases your damage against them while they're stunned. So that's quite big. So there are some larger enemies that you encounter which take so many hits that you can't stun hit them when you hit them. If they're going to wind up to attack you, you can't cancel that by hitting them. So if you're in the middle of meleeing them to death and they want to hit you, they're going to do it while you're hitting them.
I see.
So stunning them is really important to give you the space to be able to finish them off.
Does that make it sort of like almost a Metroidvania style upgrade rather than just a build upgrade? That you get that upgrade and you're actually solving a problem which you would otherwise find impossible.
There are these sort of in the shop. There are other smaller upgrades which may complement them a little bit. But again, I've not really found a kind of an exciting sort of, oh wow, that's a way to play the game. It's basically just, oh, okay, now my gun's a bit better and now I can hit a bit faster and now I can, it's nothing's really, there is one upgrade I came across, which increased your damage by 10% for every kill you make, while you stayed in midair. So if you can stay in midair, you can boost your damage up and up and up by just continually killing stuff. As soon as you hit the ground, it resets. And that was cool. It was no good against the boss, obviously. Well, not obviously. The boss in the first area does not have any kind of, sort of, what were they called? Sort of chaff enemies. It's on its own. So it's not useful there. But like in general terms, it's quite interesting, quite useful. But it's funny. Like the feel of it is really, really good. It's really fast. The sound effects are really nice. The looks beautiful.
Is it 3D? 2D? You say
2D pixels, pixels. But at the moment I'm looking. And I don't know how to kill the main boss. Like he does this because amazingly your dash does not give you invulnerability, which is a real surprise. And they know that it's a surprise because it's actually a point made in the tutorial. You are not invulnerable while you're dashing because you assume that, right? And it almost every game, the dash is an invulnerable move. But in this one, you're dashing all the time, so they can't really make it invulnerable, which means you're constantly dashing into bullets and dashing into attacks, which is the source of most of my problems. But that boss, the head of the first area, he has some really nasty, great big room filling bullet attacks, which I literally don't know because I feel I have to be moving all the time. So I'm always going to dash into the bullets.
Do you think that will be solved by an upgrade, or do you think there's
not the one I've seen? It's interesting. I don't know. What I'm worried about is that, so every time you play or to a certain point, you'll get an upgrade point, which you can play, which you can cash in back at the chiming tree. And one of the first upgrades there is 1 extra health. And I'm thinking, oh dear, it's not going to be.
Oh, what? You're going to have to grind. Oh my God. I hope
not. And it's a big skill tree. And another interesting thing about it is that all the skills that aren't immediately adjacent to the next, like, so the skills are unlocked on rows across a big grid. So you can only see the very next skill laterally. So you can only ever see, and because there are 2 sides of the skills that you're unlocking, you can only ever see 2 choices of skills you can unlock at any time until you start kind of opening up areas. So it's a little big block of question marks. So I have no idea where I'm steering this thing.
I don't know if that's fun, that lack of knowledge.
No, I want to know
what you're working towards.
Yeah. You want to know what you're working towards. You also want to know where does the skill lie? Like, where does like, am I not killing the boss because I'm not powerful enough yet, or because I'm shit? I hope I'm shit.
There are kind of enough of these sorts of roguelike action games now that as a developer, you probably need to tip your hat to what's awaiting later in the game. I don't know that you can obfuscate, because our player's going to give you the benefit of the doubt when there's so much other competition, that your game will suddenly emerge and become this, open thing with lots of skill choices and rich decisions that, really affect the way that things play out. I think you need to show that stuff up front to some extent, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely like, the kind of roguelike games where, like the first few times, you get back to the hub and like, look, now I can upgrade, I can get more health, and I can see the scale of the health that I'm going to get, for games and games in the future. But then on the 20th run, I go back to the hub, or I get to a certain point in, I achieve a certain kind of depth into the game that it unlocks a whole new way to upgrade stuff. I like that. I like the idea of kind of something unknown. Oh, wow, look at this. Now we can do that. That's cool. That's fine, even though it was invisible at the start. But the fact is, you can see how you can develop your character up until that point. And because you're at the kind of the shallow end of the skill pool at that point, I only want more health. I only want to increase my damage by 1% every upgrade point.
Right.
But when the entire thing is apparently like this great big grid is all question marks, that seems like we're not going to tell you, as opposed to cool secrets are coming.
That looks like something I just Google, to be honest.
Yeah. But it might be they might have that kind of thing as well. But it's interesting. Yeah, I don't know what the shape of it is. Yeah. I don't know whether it's a game about kind of scaling your character or getting better. It's definitely, it is a skillful game. It's definitely a skillful game.
I've already forgotten its name. Blightbringer?
Scourge Bringer.
Scourge Bringer.
Bring the scourge.
Bring the scourge.
Lovely bells.
Lovely bells.
What have you been playing?
I've been playing a couple of games, one of which also has actual bell ends in it. I've been playing a saucy little game called Goodtime Garden, which is playable at a price of your choosing, or none at all, on itch.io, whatever. Both this and the other game I've been playing this week are sort of almost the exact opposite end of the spectrum from Hunt Showdown. They are both short, sort of not narrative experience. Well, one of them is a narrative experience. Goodtime Garden is sort of a point and click, but you are this
sexy garden, good time garden. That garden's up for a good time.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's what it's about. It's a sexy garden. You're dropped into this pink, sort of slightly fleshy looking world as a pink, slightly fleshy looking little creature with a little hosepipe-ish nose and testicles that are visible.
I can see why you got it now.
And you wander around and you squirt water or something out of your nose, or you can spank things, or you can pick things up. And it's a short game, essentially, in which you feed a variety of other unctuous little creatures to a giant face/tumor, which seems to be really getting off on it. And everything else in the world is just, there's little crevices and suggestive-looking bulbs and things. It's not like super explicitly crude, but it's sort of cheeky in a kind of little drawing of a ding dong you might see on a post-it note kind of level of naughtiness. But it's quite funny. It's it's incredibly short, and it's sort of pleasingly rude. It's good. I like it. The other game, slightly more worthy, is Florence, which is a game that came out on phones a couple of years ago.
Yes,
but it's only just made its way to Steam, and it is also a short experience. It's more or less a visual novel in that there is only one trajectory for the storyline, and you can't affect it particularly. There may be some very minor ways in which your actions are reflected in the way things play out, but generally speaking, it's just a story about Florence meeting a fella and going out with a fella, and how that relationship then unfolds and what happens afterwards.
How is it told? Like, what was the there are many ways to do a visual novel these days. Was there anything phone specific about it?
So one of the things I was hoping you might have played it, because we could have discussed whether it was justified in that medium. I think it is, but it's mostly laid out as a series of sort of slightly animated vignettes.
Right.
But I mean, it could be a graphic novel, basically. It's just, you're essentially swiping from page to page, more or less, even if sometimes those pages go down, rather than,
right,
fold over. But there are interesting things about the way it defines interaction. So, it's all very, very simple. But sometimes those very simple reactions can be quite effective in suggesting a mood or a way of conduct. Sounds super vague. So an example of this would be that when you first go on a date with this guy, you have to assemble their speech bubbles yourself, and it's just like a jigsaw puzzle. Basically, there's a bubble shape, and you have all these pieces around that you then slot in to make the speech bubble. Speech bubble doesn't contain any speech. Huh. It is just a suggestion.
A puzzle of a.
It's just a suggestion that you have replied, basically. But then, so it's not a hard task to put these puzzle pieces together. But then, as you go through the conversation, you realise that the puzzle is actually getting simpler. There's fewer options, and the pieces slot together in a more obvious way. And it's a good way of mirroring how her conversation with this person becomes easier and more natural. And then it does similar things later when they have an argument, which goes in a different way. And so it's sort of playing with those kind of really low level interactions, really simple interactions, but doing something quite effective with them.
They kind of reflect kind of an emotion that's happening in the story at that point.
Yeah. And it is beautifully drawn, and the music in it is glorious as well. And it's quite a sweet story, and some of the moments that it depicts are things that are quite truthful, I think. When you first move in together with the person that you meet, you are unpacking stuff, and you have to choose where people's stuff go. And you have to make sacrifices of Florence's items, personal items, and, in order to accommodate space for your boyfriends. And it's just in those kind of really small ways, it is quite a telling game about just relationships and having relationships. And, I feel like it doesn't quite pay off, in a profound way. It's still a sweet story, and I'm absolutely delighted to have played it, but I don't feel like it necessarily really concludes with any profundity. Not that I was really looking for profundity, but there's no real coda to it. There's no real, well, this is what was learnt. It's just like some stuff happened.
Yeah.
And that's
relationships,
fine. Yeah. But that's okay. I don't mind that. I also wish there was, in those speech bubbles, I wish there was a little bit more context about what kind of conflict they are having at any one point. Because, you know, they have an argument in a supermarket and that has consequences for the relationship. But, like, it's just a placeholder for an argument that one might have. And it's a placeholder for things that go wrong in a relationship. But I don't know what those things are.
There was nothing specific to this couple and their relationship and
you know, like, it's got a named character and the characters are so precisely drawn and full of life and they feel like they have larger lives, and so you kind of want for a little bit more context, a little bit more specificity about why this is happening, or at least something you can relate to. Like, I don't think it's quite enough just to say
Is it a writing problem?
No, I think it's an intentional decision that they've stripped it of signifiers that you could,
specificity.
But for me, it just doesn't resonate quite as strongly as if they had gone for something specific. Like that decision of, you know, taking things off yourself so you can accommodate somebody else's possessions. That's a really specific thing that I can directly relate to, and that feels really meaningful. Like, oh yeah, I know. That's
but do you feel that your decisions in that led to anything?
You know, you get a different achievement
first.
I think, but I don't think it does not change.
Like, you know, exterior kind of thing.
I think well, I don't know if there are any achievements on the iPhone version. I assume there aren't. So,
well, there probably are. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it does have them. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just assumed that there is no real reflection of your actions.
Yeah. You'd think that, you'd kind of hope that it sounds neat that it would, reflect these situations in like these little vignettes play things, and that sounds cool. But if you're making decisions like that, you kind of want to feel that there's a result in them. You know, there has to be, well, do I prioritize my stuff or his stuff, you know? And you'd kind of, it seems meaningless, like neat, but meaningless if the game doesn't reflect them or acknowledge that.
Yeah, I suppose I don't really mind that there isn't some sort of branching, consequences of that.
It doesn't even have to be branching. Like, you could just have a little bit that sort of says, "Oh, you got rid of my trousers," and then and then onwards, right. You know.
Yeah. But it's cute. There are lots. It describes a lot of little moments that otherwise go undescribed generally in fiction that I think are quite nice and neat. And it is a beautiful sounding and looking game. I just wish there was a little bit more sort of flesh to it.
As much flesh as is in the garden.
Maybe not that amount of flesh. That could be too much flesh. Yeah. Which
is the best one?
I suppose.
I'm intrigued. Flesh fun?
They're very different experiences. It's like comparing apples and very suggestive looking oranges.
That's the point of the question. Well, I'm very disappointed.
Well, Hunt Showdown is better than both of them. Okay, so, you know.
Enough, yeah. Is it time
for
questions
from
questions?
Yes, it is.
Punch it, Marty.
I'm punching it. I'm punching in the first question. And it's from Daniel. He says, "Dear all, a PC Gamer article this week contains the following splendid paragraph. To optimize the grind, pick up 4 time-lost bounties and complete them by donating 400 polarized fractaline. For each 440, you'll be able to get 4 of your chosen weapon. Although if experience is your aim, you can actually pick up 7 perfect paradox time-lost bounties. While this is dearer, but still only 30 polarized fractaline, you can get much more experience as a reward." The article itself will be in the show notes. It appears to be for some Destiny 2 bullshit. Which game has the worst or best jargon? Cheers, Daniel.
Well, Destiny's probably right up there.
Right.
That is the one.
Yeah.
That is the one.
I think that one outdoes everything else, doesn't it? Really?
I don't understand. I mean, I haven't actually played the latest update, so wasn't destined to understand that, but that doesn't even seem to make sense. I don't know what's going on.
No, I think the numbers are wrong as well, aren't they?
Yeah. 440. But yeah, that's good Jargs. Really good
hot
Jargs.
I tell you what gives me the same weird buzz as that paragraph is listening to Miniatures Monthly, our own sister podcast about the Warhammer world.
Nothing jargony about that.
And it is, I find it very soothing, actually, in a weird way. It's almost like listening to birdsong, except people are describing Nurgle feet breathers or whatever they are. I don't know.
Blasters.
Just, yeah, I don't know. But that is a world of unintelligible doodads.
I think that the jargon's, knowing the jargon is a sense of a journey completed.
Yeah.
Or a journey underway in the best way.
Yeah, what other games? I don't think there are any games that come quite close to
I'm thinking
Destiny.
there might be some sort of fantasy ones where it's kind of, rather than kind of fractaline, time-worn things, it's kind of...
Yeah, I think I prefer games where the jargon comes from within, where they inspire you to create neologisms. Rather than whether the law themselves prescribe particular nonsense to you.
Yeah.
I think that happens quite a lot, especially in multiplayer games where you just come to a shared language which doesn't bear any relation often to reality or indeed the game.
I think that sometimes kind of the jargon is used as a sort of a crutch for story and world building stuff where, we haven't got space to tell a story here, so we can just insert it in the name for the MacGuffin, and, to invite the suggestion of a wider world, which I think Destiny leans on quite a lot.
It's also, Destiny's bad for it as well because it has so many different kinds of currency, essentially. Yeah. And so it needs to find different ways of categorizing these commodities.
Oh, there are some, there's something probably to be written about the names for the core key currencies that you go through. My God, it's amazing how much time I played that game and how much thought I put into kind of how many I've got left and how many I want. And, I can't remember what they're called, but they're the ones that sort of actually power up your weapons, allow them to go. And they change every season or change every kind of big update. And you can go back through them. The big one that you're collecting this season, next season will be the lower tier version. And so they sort of, you got to one up it because it's going to be a better thing. So, once you've gone time worn fractaline, where do you go next?
Yeah.
Ancient, tremendous fractaline. Yeah. You got to be really careful. You got to pace yourself when it comes to Jargs.
Can't spaff out those adjectives too early, can you? Don't spaff your Jargs. Don't spaff your Jargs. I think that's, I think Kurt Vonnegut said that. Clément writes, Dear CNC, for some unclear reason, last episode made me think of Little Big Adventure, that quirky French action-adventure game from the 1990s. Now, you probably know it is Little Big Adventure in the UK, but I recently discovered that across the pond is called Relentless Twinson's Adventure, which is an objectively worse title because there's a colon in it. This kind of absurd renaming is probably less frequent in our age of globalized media production, but do you have any other examples of that kind of arbitrary renaming? Alternatively, how would you rename famous games to better suit the imagined home market? Bonus points for colons. I'll start. Noita should be called Wizard Wand Global Chaos Episode 1. As always, thank you for all the fun. Keep podding and giving Captain Morgan his due. Clem. There's also a PS. A fun fact, in French we have this thing where we often translate English film titles in wrong English in order to sound cool. For instance, The Hangover goes to Very Bad Trip, Triage, Eyes of War, Step Up, Sexy Duds.
Well, that's actually quite specific.
Not Another Teen Movie goes to Sex Academy. Jeez. This might just be just a French thing, adding more sex to things. Yeah. Because they're better at it. Wild Things, Sex Crimes. And we also love to make fun of Quebecois French because they tend to translate film titles quite literally into things that make sense in French. We're so clever and edgy with our titles with sex in it. Le Sai. Clément. That was a good email. I enjoyed that one.
Did you play Little Big Adventure?
I did, yeah.
Was there anything relentless about it?
No, not as far as I remember.
It's quite a intense kind of reimagining of its title, isn't it?
Isn't it quite a downbeat sort of game?
I remember,
quite,
relentlessly downbeat, maybe.
No, I don't mean downbeat. I mean kind of like, measured in its pace. Like,
quiet.
Quiet.
Yeah. I played the demo. It was very quiet. Ruminative.
Yeah, I wouldn't put that in the title, though.
Yeah.
Well, most people can't say it.
I can't think of any good examples.
Of what games that have also been arbitrarily renamed
elsewhere.
He's right. It hasn't happened for a long time. This used to be a thing, right? Back in the 1990s.
Everything's globalized, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Global release windows, whatever, what have you. But what famous games would you rename? I'd rename Hunt Showdown. I mean, it's a terrible name, isn't it? Not least because it sounds like a game where you go and kill deer and things, because there is also a game called The Hunt, I believe, in which you do exactly that. So, I think
It's nice it's just called Hunt.
Yeah.
Hunt. Horrors of the Bad
Jeremy.
Swamp.
Oh, right, yes. Horrors of the Gilded Age was what it was called originally. So maybe they should go back to that, yeah. I think that's a little too kind of...
filigreed.
Yeah, filigreed. Exactly. Yes, I was going to say Baroque. But
we're on the same page.
Yeah, they need something kind of slightly grittier and grubbier. Bad Bio. Doesn't really...
Mud Wars 5, The Hunt.
What was that, sorry?
Mud Wars.
Mud Wars. Yeah, maybe we aren't the people who should be renaming things. Can't think of anything else, so we'll move on to Grizzly, who writes, Dear all of you awesome people, what is the best game title and why is it Sins of a Solar Empire? Kind regards, Grizzly. Thank you, Grizzly, for that rather neatly related question.
Very neat, thank you. Yeah. I remember when Sins of Solar Empire came into the Edge office circa, was it 2008 or something?
Yeah. I played it.
You were the PC. We didn't like touching the PC games.
I did.
And you said, oh, yes. I think Standard and I said, better you, mate.
Yeah.
And you loved it, and it looked really good. And then I played it, and it was fantastic.
It's a good game.
Yeah. It's really good.
Watching those little icons travel across deep space before being annihilated.
Good space scenes.
Yeah.
Really good space scenes.
Good name as well, I think. I think it's a good name.
I didn't like the name, not only because it was far too redolent. It made me think that it was going to be a different game. Every time, even after I knew the game, I'd think Sins of a Solar Empire. It's a space opera of epic proportion. Oh no, I'm moving spaceships from planet to planet and it's really good. But I haven't committed no sins.
Yeah, I think it's weirdly more like a name you would get now than then. Like
true.
back then, games were far more kind of literal, or they were one-word titles that were meant to be evocative in some way.
Planet Shuffle.
Whereas now you really need to hit that SEO long enough combination of words.
So you can get the URL.
So you get the URL, yeah.
What was that? There was a similarly good title to that dogfight game, that indie dogfight game, which had a similar kind of highfalutin.
Lufttrousers?
No. 3D, very 3D, really beautiful. House of the Dying Sun. Yeah. That's a name.
That is a name. Space
combat game.
Yeah.
Recently came out. Well, a couple of years ago. That's 3 years ago.
Quite like the DNA between that and Sins of a Solar Empire.
You kind of hope that, like in Sins of the Solar Empire, your view would seamlessly zoom into the planet and then down to the kind of the orbit, and then you're in House of the Dying Sun. When you start a mission in that, it has these drum beats. Doom, 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 doom. Oh, it's really bassy and it's so good. Makes me feel sick though. It's too smooth.
Wonderful.
Too nice.
I think Divine Cybermancy is the best game title. No, I can't even finish that sentence. That's obviously a stupid name to call your game. What even was that? It was a multiplayer game, right? Wasn't it?
I have no idea.
A cyberpunk multiplayer game.
Never heard of it.
Really?
No. Cybermancy.
Yeah, Divine Cybermancy.
Divine?
And I is spelled E.Y.E. It's an acronym for something, but who knows?
Eggs.
Eggs, yolk, eggs.
Geese, yeast.
Yeast in the middle.
Easy, yeah.
Yeah.
Good names.
Yes. Any other good names?
I'm out of names.
Ed writes in to say, Dear Cretan roll bars, if you could retrospectively reallocate your XP between your actual human stats, or indeed any stats, Disco Elysium, Skyrim, Slay the Spire, etc., what would you do? Regards, Ed. A while ago we got a different question, maybe many episodes ago, which I can now answer belatedly instead of Ed's question. So think of this as just paying on a debt. Maybe in a few episodes' time I'll answer Ed's question properly. But it is related in that I think somebody asked us what stat or part of what are they defined as in Disco Elysium, the different voices in your head?
Yeah, your psyche, your
Yeah. What is yours? You know, what is the one that defines you? I realized I didn't really have an answer to that at the time. But I think I actually embody the doomed commercial district. 'Cause I just have a problem with any transaction which involves commerce. Basically, I can't, it always goes really wrong. Whether it's just like, you know, paying somebody to clean, the house, for example, they ask for the huge sum of money in advance, then they turn up and they broke my bed and made the carpets wet, but otherwise didn't really appreciably reduce the filth here. Or, you know, I just go to the shops and, I'll be holding the item that I want to purchase, and then I'll get home and unload a bag of completely different items that I've somehow managed to acquire. I don't know how it happens, but it happens really reliably. Like, I just can't do anything like this.
Not good at transactions.
Transactions, but specifically ones involving money. If I can get a bad deal, I will get a really bad deal.
So what's that voice then? What is it saying in your head? It's like, oh, you need these cloths and not the trousers.
I don't know what it's saying because I don't think it's a voice that I can actually hear in my mind. Because otherwise, you know.
I'm just wondering how we'd dramatize it in disco.
Yeah. I don't know, just constant surprise that I've somehow managed to pick up some kind of foot cream instead of toothpaste.
If there was one stat that I'd like to reduce in me, it's sort of restless inquisitiveness that stops me from actually going deep on a thing. It's really annoying.
You can get drugs for that, I think, Alex. You just need Ritalin.
Yes, Ritalin. I think I first noticed it was fully aware of it when I got a CD of Spectrum games back in, you know, when you sort of, you know, early internet days, and suddenly people were compiling big kind of, you know, it was the conjunction of internet and 640 megabytes of storage,
right? And
in which you could basically put all of the Spectrum's kind of, you know, library on. And it's one of those things where you think it's a really good idea until you start dabbling in game after game after game and feeling worse and worse about yourself and getting bored almost into state, you know, not that these games are, you know, good or particularly playable, but being bored and frustrated with games in an instant after they've actually flashed onto the screen. And, it's that. I'd like to reduce that stat and put it into some sort of concentration stat. That would be good.
Okay. Yeah. So you're actually flipping it. You're basically, taking the numbers out of that and putting it into the stat, which is the opposite. Yeah. You wouldn't put it into a different unrelated stat?
Good at sports.
Really? You want to be better at sports?
Yeah, it'd be good, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be great to walk down the street and think, I'm really good at football? Wouldn't that be great, wouldn't it?
I don't know. I don't know if I could ever bring myself to give a fuck about sports, even if I was really good at them.
This is what I'm saying. I think you would. I think you'd love the sports. You'd go, God, I really do see the intrinsic quality of Everton now that I'm good at the football.
Oh, God forbid. No. In fact, I'm going to take what little appreciation of sport I have and put it all into fucking bartering. Just so I can buy the right kind of orange juice from the shop for once. And get a man to do a thing properly for me, rather than break things instead. Literally the opposite of what I hired them to do.
Just a little a note that this event happened about 6 months ago now, and he's still angry.
So the archetypal one of this is when our boiler was on the blink, so I had to try and get a man to come and do it. And instead of fixing the boiler, what he did was he sandwiched a wire between the wall and the boiler casing such that it got really hot, and not only made the entire casing of the boiler and the thing in live, but then blew out the electricity in the house, which is, you know. I still paid him. I don't understand why.
And apologised for it.
And yes,
sorry for calling you out.
It's a really tricky boiler. I know it is. I'm sorry it's such a inconvenient place.
Sorry about you doing a job.
Yeah. And almost killing myself and yourself.
Setting your house on fire.
And probably, causing an electrical fire. It always happens, Alex. I don't know how I can stop it.
I think not deal with them and have someone else do it.
Yeah. But then I'm going to get ripped off by my personal assistant, aren't they? They're going to embezzle all my wealth, such as it is.
You'll ask them to do the wrong thing.
I'll get home one day and locks will be changed to my house. You'll be like, I own it now. Get out. I'll say, thank you. That's the sad coda to this.
And sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry you own my house now.
Yeah. There's actually a bit of damp in there. Oh, no. Never mind. George writes, deeply confused as to why I am referred to alternately as Marsh and or Martin, also something for which I apologise for. I've confused everybody with this. My name is actually Martin, but my nickname from school age was Marsh. And so at a very confusing point in my life, when I started getting bylines and I was already working as Marsh as an illustrator, I decided to bring the two strands of my work together so that I would start getting bylines under Marsh Davis. But everybody who knew me in the writing community already referred to me as Martin or Marty. And so it really just, confused literally everybody in my personal acquaintance. And, I'm very sorry for it. But it's really good for SEO. So what can I say? Llewellyn writes, hello, poignant peas in a pod. Recently I started listening to your podcast for the first time in about 300 episodes. I've been familiar with your musings since the PC Gamer podcast and the first few months of Crate and Crowbar. I stopped listening until now for quite a strange reason. I simply enjoyed it too much. I had such a great time listening, I felt rather envious of the satisfying and interesting conversations you were having. Fortunately, I'm much happier and secure with myself, and I can now listen contently. Which leads me to my question. Have you experienced anything similar yourselves? Is there anything that inspires you to such a degree it's almost paralyzing? If so, how do you manage your inspirations? I get a huge amount of energy when I play, watch, listen to something inspiring, and it's frustrating if I don't use that energy appropriately. I'll be busy catching up on that 300 episode backlog. Much love, Llewellyn.
Aww.
Yeah, aw.
I do recognise that though.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I think that it's, because, I wouldn't want to kind of represent it for you, but I think I get to work in something that I love personally. But that does mean because it's about creating things, I like to listen to things that are good quality and also relate to the thing that I do for a living. And if they're making something quality relating to my work, I tend to feel, oh God, I've missed out on doing that, or oh God, I wish I'd done that. Oh God, I'm not good enough to do that. So yeah, it is kind of bittersweet in that way. So I do kind of recognize that feeling.
Yeah, I mean, less specifically about the games industry, but certainly, I mean, Facebook was a big engine of negative emotions for me, including envy. I think for a brief period of time in my life, and just because I mean. Everybody lives their lives at different speeds and there's no kind of synchronization. I think it takes a long time for you to realize that when you're younger. And so you see people accelerating off in their careers and maybe like a lot of your peers, start doing well or doing interesting things or having, lives that are very easily Instagrammable, or whatever the Facebook equivalent was back in, 2006 or something. But it doesn't mean that you can't do that stuff or you won't be able to do that stuff or that you're forbidden from those kind of meaningful things or even that those things are really that meaningful.
Or even true.
Or even true. Yes. And you'll get there and you'll have the fun times, basically, at some point. You don't need to feel rushed about these things. But there was a period where I felt like I was not doing very well in my career. And I felt an incredible sense of failure, basically, because I'd been told that I would do well and I wasn't. And lots of people who I knew were doing really well or seeming to do really well. And that was sad and annoying for me. But then I realized it was all bullshit. It's fine.
Yeah. I think these things definitely come in waves like that. Yeah. And they're usually product or at least very deeply related to, other issues of sort of self-kindness, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, you just need to give yourself time, really, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the social media, I have varying relationships with social media. I can't look at Facebook. I don't look at Twitter very much anymore. I feel healthier for it, in myself. Because you do only notice the stuff that you feel you're missing out on.
Right, yeah.
It's not all that's on it, obviously, but yeah, I think that sort of stuff can always easily make you feel that everyone else is having a good time.
Well, nobody posts, true mundanity, do they? I mean, they're only going to post the highlights or the lowlights, and Twitter is just wall-to-wall lowlights right now, and Facebook still seems to be mostly highlights, but they're of lives that are quite alien to me since I don't intend to create children. I'm not that heavily invested in other people's stories about their kids. In terms of things being inspiring to the point of paralysis, I think I do get that periodically when I see work, particularly art, which is of a level which I feel I would wish to achieve, but I'm not quite at that level. And again, it's a thing that you can cure by being kind to yourself, because there's a really there's some kind of, I can't remember who did it, but there's a graph of sort of your perceived skill and your actual skill, and these things sort of track slightly independently of each other. So there's always periods where your ability to perceive quality outstrips your ability to achieve it, and it becomes very frustrating. And then your ability to achieve quality catches up with your ability to perceive it, and that's very satisfying. But then you reach another kind of level of revelation where suddenly you realize what the next thing is to attain, and you know that you can't get there. And so it is, it's frustrating to try and do things which are out of your reach, but you need to know that they will one day be in your reach if you just persist, basically, I think. That's my shitty cod wisdom for you. Tom writes, has the big town problem not been solved in real life with the invention of the open top bus tour? What games Big Town would you most like to enjoy being shown by a charismatic walking tour guide?
The Big Town saga continues. We should probably explain the Big Town problem very quickly. That is our own Destiny level jargon. It is, yeah. Big Town problem is the one where you're playing a role-playing game and you arrive in the first large kind of area where, it's usually a town, and suddenly lots of choices ahead of you. Do you go down that street? And there are people all over the place and quest givers, and you just think, oh God, I can't handle this. And you switch off. The going on a tour. It doesn't really solve it, does it? It doesn't really. Because I think one of the core problem with the Big Town is of choice paralysis, but a subsidiary and contributing factor is the fact that the first conversation you have with a person in a character in Big Town is the character who tells you what all the districts of Big Town are. Over here is the commercial district. Oh, you should visit Bertha, who has an amazing weapon store. And oh, yes, and you should understand about the history. Oh, yes, tell me about the history of the big castle. Oh, yes, well, in 1296. and that, in fact, is the precise place that I switch off, because I cannot be fucked to be told about the history of Big Town, because I don't care about Big Town. I want to get out of Big Town. So this character, this hapless character, so helpful, is the open top bus tour. and I want him to catch a flat, and I want him to roll down the hill.
Oh,
hopefully with nobody else in sight.
Yeah. I'd quite like a really hammy ghost tour of the bayou. You're like, yeah, actually,
I died
here and here she is. Okay. She's now covered in bees. Actually, I went on a ghost tour of New Haven, which is where I was living in the States. But what was weird about it was just how lame the ghosts were. This is like the East Coast. So it's it's the coastline of fucking Edgar Allan Poe and, the Shining guy. What's his name?
Stephen
King.
Yeah.
There you go. So you'd think there'd be some kind of depths to mine, but they're all really lame ghosts. They're like, yeah, it's, sometimes you see a lady in this window. And you're like, mate, come on. I want somebody, a flaming skeleton at least. One flaming skeleton pursuing people down the street. Nothing like that. Yeah, sometimes you can feel a strange presence as you walk past this restaurant.
There was an unexpected wind one day.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a ghost dog. That is literally the most exciting of the ghosts in New Haven.
What does that ghost dog do?
Yaps, runs around. I mean, the only thing interesting about it is the fact it's a dog, really.
So the thing is, they sound they're super mundane and basically boring, but, they do at least sound as if they are earnestly believed by some people.
Well, this
because
guy,
they're so boring.
He's like, I'm very open-minded. I'm actually a cynic. I'm actually a skeptic. I come to this with a skeptic view, but this house is very haunted. It is very, very haunted. Sometimes you can see a woman in the window.
There's extremely a woman, extremely in the window.
Yeah. Yeah, he was very enthusiastic.
So open-minded and a skeptic.
Yeah, I'm not sure he quite managed to internalise what either of those phrases meant, but he was wearing a top hat, so you couldn't really argue with him.
Fair enough, yeah.
Henry writes, Dear Crate and Crowded Bars, when I explain the world to my 1-year-old daughter, I feel like I'm in a point-and-click adventure game, repeating the same pre-recorded phrases about the same objects over and over again. That's a plant. We can't play with that, I would say when she excitedly points at it for the 100th time. That's a plant. That's a plant. That's a plant. That's a dog. That's a plant. Did you ever feel, in this so-called real life, like you're in a video game? Keep podding those lovely casts. Henry from Germany.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. Well, aren't we all? In a simulation, maybe, Alex.
Maybe. Can't prove not, can you?
Can't. Who would care to? It's a boring question. Yeah.
I wonder whether his daughter is as bored playing this point and click as she ought to be. Every time I click on it, I accidentally clicked on the plant, and now it's telling me.
Well, the important thing is for Henry to have a wide variety of no responses. So it's not just, I can't use these things together, and that won't work. I can't use these things together. That won't work. That won't work.
You've only got 2 responses.
Yeah.
I want a third.
No, those are the only 2.
No!
So you need to develop more, basically.
Okay.
That's the thing. I remember when I started wearing glasses for the first time, it coincided with my first foray into the use, I think then, the Unreal 1 engine. Or maybe it was Quake mapping in the original Quake engine. And the way that light would catch on the side of your glasses, and the fact that your glasses have a sort of, created a mismatch between straight lines that are going into your range of focal vision now, made me, feel like I was constantly observing BSP errors, which would create the Hall of Mirrors effect, as it was known, which would, a very distinctive sort of repeating, artifact pattern. So I guess that's like being in
big glasses. Yeah.
I needed bigger glasses. Yeah.
You know what, actually? It's not really video games because on the other hand, like my kids who have grown up with modern games, and they actually sort of, I think they've been taught work ethics from games because there's just so much you have to do, like Minecraft and, kind of just
Well,
XP
but
grinding
do
and
they
whatnot.
feel that they deserve an equal reward for the amount of work they put in? Because that will not be the case during life.
Possibly not, but the worst things are stuff like, they believe that just things come. Just everything is just available. Everything is just there. And that's not because of games. It's because of Netflix and stuff like that,
Right.
where things are just always available or without hassle or with as few frictional things in the way. And it does mean they ask for things way outside of anything I'd have asked when I was a kid. Oh, can we do this? Can we have that? It's like, no.
Really?
Yeah, it costs money. No way.
Huh. But things that aren't the kind of media that's consumable.
Yeah, no,
like-
unrelated. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah. But particularly digital things, I think. But in general, like, oh, can I have this? Can I have that?
Like what? Like a pet whale? What?
Yeah, like Wales. All of the country. Yeah. But I think there's an expectation of just sort of, nah, I can have it. That's in them. Maybe we just brought them up badly though. Weirdly enough, it's not games. I did worry for a long time that games would be teaching some really strange kind of values everything is equally available as long as you put the work in, kind of strange kind of,
You grind and you get your golden
trinkets.
pauldrons.
Yeah. But
Pauldrons even thing, or am I?
pauldrons.
Pauldrons, yeah.
You and your weaponry, you're not like, what was it, the balsonet? What was that?
The bardiche, I believe. I was corrected by our knife expert, Chris Thurston.
There's an uncomfortable amount of,
stabbing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well. Should we leave it there?
let's.
Those are all the questions that we have
From
questions this week. You can send us more questions at creatingcrowbar.com, or you can tweet them to our Twitter account at creatingcrowbar. You can also watch these episodes on YouTube. This is youtube.com/creatingcrowbar. And you can fund these episodes, should you wish to, at our Patreon, which is patreon.com/creatingcrowbar.
Thank you to all who support us on Patreon.
They're very good people. And many of them come from our wonderful Discord community, which is the enduring delight of this podcast.
Yes.
I think. One of the only good things that has ever been born of my existence.
God, this has been a downbeat episode. Downbeat.
No, that's a highlight. It's a highlight of Discord. Anyway, and you can find the link to that on our website, which is creatingcrowbar.com. I am Marsh Davis, or Martin Davis, if you wish to be further confused by my indecision. I've been joined this evening by the very lovely
Alex Wiltshire.
Taco de Ville.
Taco.
Get ourselves amped up, pumped up, Alex, pumped up. Are you ready? Are you ready to rock and roll?
I don't want to.